And so we're really happy to have Gabriela with us. As I mentioned, Gabriela is connecting from the Czech Republic in Europe. She has a PhD and she started her professional career as a lower secondary school English teacher. She currently chairs the Department of English at the Faculty of Education at the University of West Bohemia in Plzen in the Czech Republic, where she also teaches second language teacher education courses to pre-service and in-service teachers. Her professional interests include the effectiveness and utility of visual design of ELT materials, teacher education, innovation in education, and leadership. And for TESOL's 50th anniversary, she was named one of the 30 emerging leaders shaping the future of the profession. Gabriela Kleckova also served as the TESOL International Association president for 2021-2022, and she currently serves as past president of the association. So she's here to speak with us today with the presentation, What Matters? So if you have your cameras on, please welcome Dr. Gabriela Kleckova with a warm virtual round of applause. Let's wave those hands.
Thank you. This is Buenos Dias or Buenos. I don't know the other ones. That's how much. Maybe you can get C. That's how much Spanish you're gonna get from me today. So greetings all the way from the Czech Republic. I'll be sharing my presentation with you, and hopefully this talk today and the things that are ahead of us will be engaging for everyone. If you feel like this is not your cup of tea and you would rather prefer a glass of beer or another glass of wine, just leave and do something better with your time. Okay, I will not take this personally, but I'm going to share this. I'm going to share my presentation and kind of walk through this. It's 9:30 here in the Czech Republic, end of the day. So any typos in what I say, please be aware that it's kind of late for me. All right. When I thought about the talk for today and what matters is because I'm a little overwhelmed with what it's out there and how much we can think about when it gets to teaching, and it's an ongoing, I feel overwhelmed. I just spent 2 days at TEFL in Belfast, just only 2 days. The conference was going on for 3 more days, and I was already full of ideas. So when I was thinking about today, I thought, well, we'll talk about what matters. And in the first part, we're going to look at something, and then hopefully you will engage in discussions in your groups around the issues and things that I'll talk about. And I don't want to spoil it at this moment what I'm going to talk about. But just for those of you, I think we have 2 things in common: the Costa Rica, Czech Republic, the C and R. But I have to say, I was in Costa Rica in 2007 or 8 in January. So this part of the world is very familiar to me. I spent about a week in the country and really enjoyed it. And since then, it has always been there's something, once you visit a place or country, it stays with you. I'm here in the heart of Europe. This is the Czech Republic. So in the heart of Europe, we're going to talk about what matters and who matters in the language classroom. But for the start, I'm going to share, I want to know how your week has been with your learners. And so I'm going to share in the chat a link to Slido, and there's a little poll. The question is, how successful was your teaching week? Okay. It's all about the impact we make in the classroom, impact on the learners and their learning. So how successful was your week this week when you look back? And I don't know how many days of you taught, but overall, if you kind of think of it, and I'm sharing the link to the Slido in the chat. So if you go there, you should be able to choose. Maybe not. Do I need to? Oh, let me now. Now you should be able to see it. So waiting for some people to respond. Now you can see the responses. You have 30 people responding. Okay. Interesting. Let's see if it seems like it has been stopped. Interesting enough. So how successful was your teaching this week? We have the largest number of people, 45% out of the 33 that completed the poll. Oh, people are still completing 3 and 4, but 23 had very successful. Well, the reason I was asking is because there are some reasons for your week to be successful. And as I said, we'll be using this. So maybe as I'm talking, you can start reflecting on your week and think about what was the things that happened this week with your learners in your language classroom that made it very successful or less successful. What were some of the things that really made it a success and how you decided? Because that's something that you'll need in the second half of the talk today. So this is what we're doing. I told you yesterday, how successful was it? 3 or 4. I wasn't clear in my instructions. Some of the students thought we were going to be meeting online, and some of them thought we were meeting in face-to-face. I wasn't clear in my instructions. So my failure was poor instructions for my students, which is something that I always struggle with as a key element in our language teaching, but something that I've been teaching for over 20 years, and still sometimes I miss some detail. So anyway, 3 and 4, that's really good standing. I'm happy 2 people didn't have a really good week, but that's what I think is typical to teaching, is not a single week is the same. And sometimes our teaching is like a roller coaster ride. I'm gonna stop sharing this. And thank you. As I said, please be thinking about the strategies that you used this week that made you 5, 3 or 4. And if you had the 2, think about what was it that maybe you were short of in your lessons that didn't make it, or what were the reasons for those lessons not to be the way that you would like them to be. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my presentation again. It's high tech. Here we go. And so we'll be using this later today. So the structure of the meeting today is very simple. First, I'll talk a little bit and you will be listening, but it won't be too long. I will not bore you too much, because I believe that in language teaching or in any teaching, it's important that we engage with the content. And so I'll talk shortly after, and you'll be thinking about what I'm talking about. Then there'll be some sharing time in groups. There'll be some ranking of certain ideas and strategies that will come out of your experiences this week, and maybe your overall teaching experiences. And towards the end, we'll probably I would like us to discuss some takeaways. And it'll be very different for each of us, but hopefully each of us will have some takeaway of today. So what I'm going to talk about, but before we get to this, I thought maybe I'll give you an activity or idea for a class with your learners. And this is one of my favorite activities. I'll engage Mark here in this activity just to illustrate, so you get to know me a little bit. So I know that teachers like practical ideas for the classroom, but there can be too many because we can't implement all of them. So maybe an idea for introductions or some speaking activity. So these are 9 images that a collage that I used an online app to create this collage. Those images kind of represent something about me from my life. And I'm going to challenge Mark here to try to figure out how many, at least, Mark, can you come up, and you can think along with Mark, can you come up with at least 3 things about me that you think these images represent?
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and say what looks like the easiest for me to figure out, that you like a glass of wine now and again, and that you also...
I mean, why do you think so, Mark? Where's the evidence?
Well, I see a glass of what appears to be wine to my mind.
That's correct.
And next to it, there looks like some kind of snacks that might pair well with wine as you're either relaxing or maybe socializing with friends. And I also see it looks like you enjoy the outdoors, since there's 4 pictures that show outdoor either activities or places such as the beach and the mountains and cycling. And I saw someone say something about your teeth, but I was wondering if maybe you recently had something going on with your eyes, because I wasn't sure that's an eyeball or what.
Yeah, I mean, you think this, like being my teeth? Okay, well, I have to say, this is really interesting. It's not really teeth. Those are bags of wild animals, like the bottoms of the wild animals, how you can spot an animal in the woods and what animal it would be. And that image represents that I like to learn new things. Okay, so these are not teeth. Those are bottoms of different animals, and how you know which animal it is. I'm just using it just to, anyway, illustrate. So that says something about me. Thank you, Mark. You were very correct. I like wine. This is not, I'll get to this. throughout the talk, but obviously I like outdoors and I like beaches and mountains, and I like biking in the countryside, and I like to live the life that I love. Maybe that's what's me. That's one example of an activity by creating collage and having students interpret those images and reading those images and explaining why they think so in the images, bringing in a critical element. But we can turn the activity into something else, and here's an example. And let's say that we have two fiction students or two students in the class, and they create their collages. And task number one has been, what do you think these two people have in common based on what you see? Okay, and Lily or Jonathan, feel free to join in with your observations. What do you think these two people have in common? Okay, based on what you see in the images.
Probably their love for the outdoors. I see a bike and nature and flowers, and maybe not wine, but food. So it's always something that you can appreciate.
And the pastries, they look good.
Yep.
Okay. So we can think about what these two students have in common, or we can be in a pair work and we can think about our images, kind of interpret and finding what we have in common, and use the images as a scaffolding, as a stimuli or springboard for the activity, for the speaking activity. But what we can also do is, I have these two people, we don't know these people, what do you have in common with them? Okay, when you look at them, what is it that you have in common with them? Is there any image that you would choose that also represents your interest? And maybe we can enjoy, and you can engage this with and putting it in the chat. What do you have in common with either both students or one of them? We're adding a different level to this. So okay, I can see nature, animal, food, and sunset. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing those. Nice. Okay. Sunset over here. I like that. Okay. So you see, you're getting engaged with this, and the reason I started with these two activities as an example, something that you could do with the students in a class that I find engaging. And somebody asked about the app. It's one of those online. I can look it up later. I remember it's an online app for collages where you can do these collages, and different apps have this now, even probably on your phone, where you have a set of pictures, and finding a picture that represents you and your identity is number one. You're making people to think of images and finding something that represents them. And that's, I think, in a certain way, developing visual literacy in that productive manner. How do I, what image would represent me in that concept? Finding those images. And those pictures can be students' own pictures that they take throughout a week, and then they create a collage that they share. They can be pictures that you introduce students to one of those free online databases where you can download pictures for free. They can download pictures over there. These are all my own personal images, but that's one thing that you can do with learners. But I believe images are an important tool in language teaching, and they're always there and always stimulate. And I have to say, I like photographs more than illustrations because they are more authentic. There's something real about photographs. But that's another talk. We will not talk about visual literacy or photographs today, but I wanted to give you an idea of some activities that you can take back and do and create with students. You can also do other things with the collages, but I think having multiple images allows students to always participate, because the task could start with, what are the 3 things? Can you think of at least 3 things, rather than saying describe all 9 images? Say 3 things about this person based on these images. Okay, and then you're navigating things. So I like to give the minimum requirement to the students, so everybody can say something, and 3 things you can do, and those more advanced can say 9 things. Anyway, and it gives us the stimuli, it provides the content for what we want to say. But another reason I wanted to share this is that these 2 types of activities to me are 2 ingredients in my own teaching, and I like things that are personal with my students, that engage them in the personal level, that it's relevant. The pictures in the books, the people in the books people I don't know, places I don't know. But when it's become my pictures that I've taken throughout my day, throughout the week, during my vacation, during a field trip, and so forth. That's something real. So, and it's mine, it's personal. Number one. Number two is, it's a puzzle. You don't know, Mark didn't know anything about me. And he was guessing. And it becomes like a puzzle. What is it really? Some people thought it was my teeth. No, it's the buttons of wild animals that are here to illustrate my passion for learning. And another one, what I find both tasks are open. And that's, I think, is a key element in a language instruction is the task. When the task is open, there's no wrong answer. All answers are okay answers, are good answers. They may not be true answers, but they're acceptable in types of situations like this when we're guessing. And that in that way, all students can participate. All students have some ideas, have interpret those images, and they have their own way of seeing the world. And open tasks allow students to be active. So just to those two activities for your students, I wanted to give you something specific you can take away before we get to more of a thinking and a reflective process of the session today. So for me, it's personal. It was an open task. It was a puzzle or a little bit of unknown. We call it information give activity, but I like it more like calling it a puzzle. And those are some ingredients that I like in my own teaching. And the reason I'm using the word ingredients is that today, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about cooking, actually. And it's something, it's the metaphor I'll be using today. It's not, I came up with it, but when I did some research online, I realized I'm not the only one. You think you've, discovered something brilliant, and then you realize that all other people have thought about it. But anyway, but I'm not stealing it. I really truly today when I was preparing, I thought of this myself, and I use a lot of food metaphors and cooking metaphors in my language teacher education. So cooking, I don't think this looks like a typical Costa Rican dish, since I'm from Europe, more of an Italian dish. And when it gets to cooking, how do you approach this process when you cook for somebody? Right, I have every New Year's Eve I have a dinner party where I cook for about 15 people, and they all come, and then we start eating at about 8, and we eat, and we always have dessert in the next year. So I plan a 3 or 5 course meal, and we spend the night eating and talking and drinking, and then we end up with dessert. And this whole process involves something, and I use this situation as an example with my students. What it means to teach. It means to think and plan. And these are some of the questions we ask ourselves when we think about cooking. What cooking skills do I have? Okay. It varies, right? Some of us are maybe, I don't know if you've ever made your homemade pasta. I haven't, but maybe you are very adventurous and you've made. I don't know if Mark has brewed his own beer because Mark likes beer. No, Mark, no, you haven't yet. Okay. So what cooking skills do I have? And that kind of helps me to decide what I'm going to make. The next question is, what do I have in my kitchen? Like, what is my kitchen like, right? I only have one oven. I lived in a house that had 2 ovens. That makes a big difference, but what do I have in my kitchen? Who am I cooking for? I have a friend who is vegan. Fortunately, he doesn't come for New Year's Eve parties. Okay, that would really make the things complicated for me. So who am I cooking for? Then I think, what do they like to eat? Okay. I'm sure when you have friends over to come, you think, what do they like to eat? You don't want to give them something that they hate. What do I want to cook for them? Now comes the schizophrenia. What do they like to eat? And what do I want to cook? Right? How do I decide? What is more important? What they like to eat, or what do I want to cook for them? The next question is, what do I need to make the meal? And this is my favorite part, is I usually, when I plan my New Year's Eve dinner, I think of the menu, and then I think all the ingredients that I need. Okay, and then I go to the store and I shop. And many of us know that if you go to the store without a clear idea what we want to get, we get it, what? More? Mark is not more. We get things that we really don't need, and we don't get things that we actually need. So it's good to keep evidence of what I need to make the meal and how much time do I have? How much time do I have for preparing the meal and how much time do we have for eating all the things that I'm going to make. So these are some questions that apply to cooking. I don't know how many of you are chefs. Oh, Lourdes is saying, I love cooking. So I'm glad it resonates with you, this metaphor. Lourdes, I have a student who doesn't know much about cooking. And every time I bring up these metaphors, she says, cooking again. Oh no. But I think that simplifying teaching and coming up with metaphors, showing that it's actually very simple and there's no magic. There are just some things that we need to think about. So these are some questions that I think about when it gets to cooking. Maybe you have some other ones. Do you have any other ones that you think about? Maybe share them in the chat. Is there anything that you think about when it gets to cooking? Planning dinner, lunch, Sunday dinner for family. Is there anything you consider? Budget. Okay, I think budget. Money is another one. Okay, I didn't put it in. But any questions? Anything? Space. I like that. Who do you like to cook? How will I plate everything so it looks awesome? I like that. The presentation. Oh, Lourdes, you're practical. You include your guests into the activity. We think about the time. Yes, that's an important thing. I sometimes delete those meals that take forever to prepare. I go for the simple ones. Okay. Sometimes when I'm in the mood, I go. And like all of you are into food allergies now and food restrictions. Yeah. Oh, okay. I like the outdoors or indoors. Well, that's afterwards. Pick up the clean the tables, right? Healthy, unhealthy food. Yes. What if I burn the main dish? And believe it or not, always for my New Year's Eve dinner, I choose a dish that I never made before. I put myself a little bit into stress with that. I don't feel tired when the guests arrive. I love that thinking. Okay, so lots of experiences. Okay, lots of experiences. We have lots of chefs in the crowd. That's good. So keep that thinking. What's plan B in case something comes up? Yeah, I burn the meal or not enough, right? I always hear, like, will I have enough, right? Will I have enough food? So often make too much. Oh, Lily, you are the wine drinker. What is the best wine that goes with this? I can see you put a lot of thought into your cooking and making dinners. So let's move on to something that really actually is relevant to all of us here today, and that's teaching. And as I said, this is not my own metaphor, but other people have thought about it. But a lot of people draw this parallel between cooking and teaching. Okay. Pasta goes well with lumber school. Thank you for that tip. I'll note that down for December 31st. Somebody is really healthy into carbs, proteins. I don't think about those things for New Year's Eve dinner. I just want to have fun and good meal. But throughout the year, I do. Anyway, as I said, let's go back to teaching, or something that's dear to us. And there's a parallel between cooking and teaching. And let's look at this. These are the questions that I just walked us through. And these are questions that I believe a teacher should, and maybe many of us ask, but I want to go over this with some additional ideas. So when we think of what cooking skills do I have, is what teaching skills do I have? What are my competences? And maybe it's something we don't think on a regular basis. But I have this feeling that very often as educators, and I read this somewhere, that we try to maximize, we try to do the best, almost sometimes impossible, that we always want to be better and different. And just thinking about what teaching skills do I have, what are my strengths, what is the art that I have mastered, that I have here to work with as a teacher. And every single person here in this virtual room today has lots of teaching skills. And when I look at these chefs online or watch videos, I go like, oh, there's no way I can make this, okay? And very often we as teachers think, there's no way I can teach like this, or I can do this. My colleague is so brilliant with the learners, or my colleague does this, or this person does this. But what I think is important is to focus on what are my skills, what is it that I can make, and I can make well. And not to think about what are the possible things that I could make, but what is it that I've learned? And like throughout life we develop as chefs. Some of us are stick with the meals and dishes that we were cooking when we were 20, and we never expand and change. We always cook the same things. And maybe some of us in the classrooms are the same, but maybe some of us grow and expand, and we do things and develop skills. And maybe it depends on our nature. Okay. What do I have in my kitchen? What is my teaching context like? That's another really important thing that matters. Context drives instruction. What is it that I can make? If I'm making New Year's Eve dinner in my kitchen, I have a kitchen that is big and I can make a lot. But we're in a small kitchen, maybe I cannot create the meals that I would like to create. So I have to think of the teaching context. And again, as I said, with the skills, I sometimes know that as teachers, we want to always give more. We don't respect the reality. We try to do, as I said, better, and we want to make things different, and we always are forward thinking. But what is it in my teaching context? What is the relevant and possible in this given context that I can do with my skills? I don't have to be top Michelin star chef. I can be a chef that makes a good meal for the audience that I have in my class. And that brings me to who are my learners. And many of you put that at the feet. You think about the allergies of the people. Who are my learners? What are their needs? What are their likes? What allergies do they have? What topics are they allergic to? Or what activities are they allergic to? And what do they like? What kind of eaters are they? Eaters of the language. And as is what I said, what do they like and need? And another, what do I want to achieve? And this is a really important element. What is it that I want to make for them and I want to achieve? When I have people come to my dinner parties, I have one single goal. When they leave at 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning, I don't want them to be sick. I don't want them to feel stuffed. I want them to feel at ease and leave with a good feeling that they had an enjoyable meal. They really remember what they ate and they enjoyed themselves. And I really think about this. So when I have a heavy main dish, I go for a light starter, and then I have or an appetizer that's kind of light of nature. If I have heavier appetizers, I go for a lighter meal. I don't want them to be overwhelmed. And the same applies to language class. What do I want to achieve? How much food do I want to give them? What do I want to feed them with? And then the next thing, what do I need to make the meal? Those are the ingredients. What do I need to do to achieve my goal? What is it for me as a teacher that I need to do in the class so the students leave with what I desire for them to leave with? And of course, a major consideration is how much time do I have? Okay, many of you said you don't want to be tired, exhausted. Sometimes we as teachers do this. We rush through, we do a lot of things. We try to squeeze in as much as possible without being realistic. So those are some parallels between cooking and teaching. And if I summarize this, I kind of try to highlight what I believe is what matters. And the whole talk is about what matters, what makes an impact on the learners. We'll be talking more about our ingredients shortly. But I wanted to highlight what I truly believe is like the foundation in what creates the environment. I don't think there is a good or a bad lesson. There's just a lesson that has a bigger impact on students' learning. We all do our best, and not always when we cook, the food is palatable to all. Sometimes the way we cook is that we have 5 minutes. We want to throw quickly something together and feed somebody if it's needed, right? Sometimes we don't have time to prepare for a class, so we throw something together. We know it's not good, it's not healthy, but we just bringing it in and we give it to the learners because we didn't have the time. So the situations are different, and there are all these parallels between cooking and teaching. And if you have time, and if you're not overwhelmed, you're more likely to spend more time on preparing the meal, investing into thinking, experimenting. When we are under stress, not so much, right? But as you all know, it's good for us to have a balanced meal, not to eat fast, enjoy our meals, enjoy our drinks, and eat slowly. And maybe have a good amount of food on the plate, but not to feel stuffed at the end. And similarly, the same things should happen in the class. We want students to have an okay amount of content that they're going to master and digest. We want them to enjoy it. Some of you said that you want people, you want to put it nicely on the plate, and we want to do the same in the class. So in the midst of all of these questions, I think the three that are highlighted blue are key. Who are my learners? Who are they today? Who were they yesterday? Who will they be tomorrow? What are their needs? What are their feelings? What is their status? What is their learning preference? Maybe they don't like grammar. Like some people don't like cabbage, right? And today is the lesson where I have to do some grammar. So how do I do it? So all my students eat it, so they don't give it back to me at the end of the lesson. So I want to think about my learners and their appetite and their needs and how much they can eat. And also what time of the day are we teaching them, right? Some people like certain things in the morning and some things in the afternoon. But and similarly, if I have a morning class, maybe my meal will look different from an afternoon class. Those are all the things I need to think about and really look and have my learners in focus. And then a second important thing is, what do I want to achieve? Do I have a clear goal? Is it like, I'm going to make some potatoes today? Or is it like, I'm going to make mashed potatoes with a little butter and good milk? What is it that I have? Do I have a clear idea in my lesson what I want to achieve? What takeaway do I want for my learners to have in the lesson? Because if I have that clear idea, I'll make a potato dish. I'll make mashed potatoes with butter, maybe with a little garlic and maybe some parsley on the top to make it look good. I'll need other things than if I just have a broad idea. I'll make a potato dish. If I know I'm going to make the mashed potatoes, I get the ingredients and I cook it. I don't put in anything additional, and the lesson becomes very focused and it's clear what the outcome is. So I have to have a clear idea what I'm making and what I need for this to happen. And very often we add things to our meal. In other words, we add things to our lessons that are not there. And one of my students laughed at me because I often said, yeah, you're just putting on additional parsley you don't need at this point, right? Some people just add things to the plate for it to look good, and it's not needed. And so thinking is, what is it that I need on the plate for the students? What do I need in the lesson for the learners to have there? What can they eat, and how much of it can they eat in this lesson? And what is the outcome of the lesson? So those are the three questions that I think are really important in our teaching. And as I said earlier, I think many of you illustrated this in the chat, is that many of you are chefs or you cook, and many of you and you're teachers. And like all cooks have their little ingredients that they like to use. I like butter. I don't know what you like in your cooking. I like using a lot of butter, and I like garlic as well, olive oil. I like those things to use. But if I can use butter, I always use butter. And you have your own little secret that you use in your cooking. It's like something that is more natural to you, that is your thing, and it always makes. I think wherever you put butter, it tastes good at the end, right? So so my question for you is, what is your ingredients? I'm going to take 2 minutes to think about this, and maybe you can find a piece of paper, something to note this down. What is one of your key ingredients that you use in your teaching? Okay, you're not talking about recipes right now. We're just thinking about ingredients. What is your ingredients? And if I think about my teaching, I always think that it has to be relevant to the students. If the text, the content, the topic, the picture, the question, anything is distant from where they are, they will not engage. If it's too distant to them. So my ingredients in language teaching is making sure that the students is reflected in the task. There is a connection between what they're doing and who they are. That's my secret ingredients for teaching. It seems to work most of the time like butter. Okay, so my question for you again is, what is your secret ingredients? And I'm going to take 2 minutes to think about this. What is your ingredients, or what is your strategy in cooking, in other words, in teaching? Okay, if you can note this down, everybody, can you think of one thing for yourself that is your secret, that you know always works, leads to good results? And I know maybe you have, don't share it yet. Don't share it yet. This is for yourself. This is a little preparation, like a scaffolding for the upcoming activities. So don't share it in the chat. Just think of what is your ingredient? Okay, one of your favorite ones. I'm sure you have more than one. But it was the one in a language class that makes your cooking. Please do not share it in the chat. You'll have time to share this shortly. You have your ingredients listed, your top cooking teaching ingredients. I think, Mark, are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Now, do you want to introduce the task, or should I?
No, go ahead.
What you're going to do now, you'll be in groups of 6. And I want you to share your ingredients. Okay. And also explain why it's a good ingredient in your experiences. Okay. So what it is and why you think it's a good ingredient in language classroom. Okay. And after all of you have shared your ingredients, you should end up with 6. If you can, in the group, as you listen to each other, can you agree on 2? I don't know. Do you do 2 like this in Costa Rica, or 2 like this? What is the 2? Okay, so you're gonna think of 2. Okay. If you can think of 2, agree on 2 ingredients in your group, and that's okay. So first you share what and why. You agree on 2, and somebody in the group, if you can record those 2, because we're gonna do something with your ingredients. Okay, we're gonna create a list of useful teaching ingredients, okay, based on your experiences. We have 67 people. That's a lot of ingredients in cooking. So what are some of the good tips for cooking with our learners? So what is your tip, your strategy, your ingredients, why it works, why is it a good one? And if you can agree on 2 in your group, and if you can, somebody in your group record those, because we'll be sharing those later. Okay, Mark, are we ready for the group work?
Yeah, exactly. We're ready to go. You have the instructions already given to you, but just in case, in the chat as well, you have a link to those same instructions that Gabriela just explained. So we're going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms for 10 to 15 minutes. I guess we're going to see how you all are doing, and we'll decide when to bring you back. If you're in a place where you're not able to participate, we ask you just to kind of listen, because of course, when we come back to the main room, there's still time for questions and answers and some other things that I know that Gabriela wants to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and open the room starting now. Okay, looks like we're all back now.
Are we? Okay, great. Thank you for sharing your cooking secrets there. What I would like you to do now, I'm going to share again in the chat a link to a Slido, and it says type your question, but you will not type your question. Somebody in your group noted down those 2 ingredients. So if you can put in the ingredients as separate questions. I'm going to show you right now what we have in there to give you an idea before I share it. It looks like this right now. And right, do you see you see the 2 questions or 2 ingredients is there, right? Am I
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So you will be adding your ingredients to the list. Those who in the group recorded those 2. Not everybody's putting their own ones. We're putting the 2 top ones in the group. Okay. And the other ones, you'll be looking at the ingredients. And if you like an ingredients and you think this is a really good ingredient in cooking, you're just gonna click on the thumb up. So as people are putting in the ingredients, you will be ranking those as which ones you think. So it's gonna take about 5 minutes. You can be reading and we'll see what are the top ingredients. And I hope we'll have some salt and pepper. Okay, I think those would be the top one. What are some key ingredients in teaching that we know create the base that support our instruction and result in making impact on students' lives? So I'm going to share that link in the chat. Here it is. And if I can ask the group leaders or the group recorders to share those ingredients and the other ones to be looking there and marking your top ingredients as you read those that are being edited. And if you can be explicit in the ingredients, there might be some similar ones, that's just okay. And if you already see something that you think it's really important in our effective teaching, in teaching that matters, it's a little dynamic as people are adding things, so it's probably moving in front of your eyes, but as you kind of scroll through. Okay. So I'm going to share this with everyone on the screen. What's interesting is that very often we seek new ideas and we constantly shop for new ideas and for our teaching. We are on an instant search for something different and better, and we expand our. We want to bring in new ideas. Oh, I need a new vocabulary practice activity. I need a new warm up. Okay, teachers have this tendency to look for new, but sometimes we forget that it doesn't matter how many different new ideas we have. The important thing is there is some basic that matters in the lesson. And I honestly think that if you have 5 great vocabulary practice activities, just use them. It's better than to have 25 because they confuse students. They always have to learn a new strategy, new way to practice vocabulary. And you have 10 and you use for 1 month 5 and the following month the other 5. Okay, I think that less is more, and but all of this is based on certain things that we see in our core ingredients is the salt and pepper of our of our teaching, right? And what are they? The salt and pepper, and we have some interesting results here. Scaffolding, a key element for every student to succeed. Right? Scaffolding every single activity. Like today, I gave you 2 minutes to think about the ingredients before you went into groups. A little scaffolding so you're ready to speak, right? And so the success of the sharing is ready. Empathy and passion, always there. Motivation, of course, is a key thing. Although I tell my students who are future teachers of English, I say, you don't have to motivate your students. What you have to do is to create conditions for learning, and then it will motivate them if it's done properly. Okay, it's not our responsibility to motivate. It's our responsibility to create conditions for learning, and a key element in conditions for learning is to create an environment in which the students engage, and then they're motivated. We have empathy, personalized content, that thing that the learner being at the center of our instruction. And I like this one. This is really interesting. Be aware of my feelings and the students' feelings. Being as an ingredient, that I have to know where I stand right now in my lesson today, where there are students and how we can work together. We also have, you need some hot sauce. Okay. And what is it? The energy in the lesson, get excited, right? 8 o'clock morning class, Monday morning, a group of 14-year-old students, right? You need a lot of hot sauce there to get any activity out. And planning is also important. My secret ingredients have students arrive at the terminal objective. So we have these ingredients. They're very similar. Smiling. What I think is fascinating is that the ingredients are student related. It's almost like it's all about the students. And when I gave the description of what matters is we're going to look at some conditions. And as I said in it, I think that the learner is the key element of that drives our instruction. And then it's the planning process that's also there, and the strategies in the lesson. So going back to my 3 questions: learner, objective, and how we get to the objective. So many ideas out there, so many lesson plans online to download and use, so much. But in the middle of all of this, these 3 things matter. And I think that maybe it is better to be making a good meal that I've learned how to make well and do it than to experiment all the time. There is too much stress and we never know what's going to happen. So I think finding a balance between what we know and do well and maybe adding new things. I don't, every New Year's Eve, I do have that main dish is often a new dish for me and for the people, and I go for it. But I have the time and the capacity and the resources to do this. And having a very different lesson using technology or using images that we haven't used before, you need time to prepare a lesson well. But I think doing certain basic things well takes you far. And sometimes making these good meals that you know how to make, but you present them a certain way, and you really think about your learners will get you far. And so the ingredients of our teaching can vary, and they are often based and relate to the learners and who is in our audience. And as cooks, as I said, some people cook the same meal since they started cooking. Some people kind of expand. The same applies to teachers. And very often teachers like to expand their repertoire. And the way we can do this, we've done this, the best way to actually expand our cooking skills, our teaching skills, is to be cooking with somebody. Okay, there's nothing like being in the kitchen with somebody. There's nothing like planning a lesson with somebody where you, oh, I didn't know you do this like this. Oh, you do this like this. I didn't know that. Look at these. This is an old picture. Look at these women, like they're looking how she does it, right? That's the best way to learn it. When I cook with a friend of mine, I'm always amazed when I learn like how the chopping happens or things in the kitchen that I didn't see, but I have to be there with her. So one way to expand our teaching skills, to learn about the ingredients of the others, is to cook with them. It can be a joint lesson planning, it can be class observations, it can be teaching in twos, pair teaching, it can be many different things. But the important thing is that it's shared and it's done together. And that's how we learn. The most I learned in cooking is that I was in the kitchen with somebody. It wasn't through these other sources of new ideas that I'm going to share. The most I learned was that I was doing it with somebody in the kitchen. But we also, the way we can expand our horizon is to try new things. Maybe this is going to the workshops. Next week, or I believe next week or in 2 weeks, you have your conference, right? You'll be there, you'll be tasting new things. And you decide if you're going to bring them to your lessons or not. You don't have to bring all the new things. Maybe you want to take 1 or 2 new things to your lesson and put it into your cooking repertoire. The other thing is to watch videos, right? It's very popular. Cooking shows are popular. A lot of people watch cooking shows and then they get off the sofa, go to the kitchen and make the meal they always make. That has the least impact. We think what we would make, but we hardly ever go and make it. We enjoy the process, watching the process. So I think watching videos or webinars sometimes doesn't do the trick. Okay, we may be amazed and fascinated by the trick, then it doesn't happen in the classes. I believe that the most things in the class happen when we do this collaborative cooking together. And of course, then we have recipes. Those are the books full of activities. Now we use the internet, where you can always look up new things that we want to do in the classes. But as I said, I truly believe that the image on the left is the key image that represents the best way we can learn and expand our cooking, is to be with others and be looking at how they cook. And the fact that you shared so many ingredients in this little activity shows how much resources there are in our communities or professional communities, how much we can learn from each other. We don't have to go to all these webinars like today. You don't have to go and listen to podcasts, as I always say, watch things on YouTube or read blogs or do all these things. What matters is to get together with colleagues and talk about how you do something in the class and reflect on it and talk about whether it works or doesn't work. There are all these little tricks that some people have in cooking that I'm like, this sounds simple, but you don't know until somebody tells you or shows you. And it can happen in our communities that we work with or in our institutions where we are. Before we get to questions, I wanna ask you, oh, maybe we can get to questions now. We'll do the takeaway. Maybe let's take time for questions now, and then we'll do the takeaway. We have some time.
Great. So we encourage everybody to write your questions in the chat, or if you want to say something and open your microphone, you can do that as well. So let me just make sure that that's possible. Yeah, that should be possible. So any questions or comments for Gabriela are welcome at this time, either using your microphone or through the chat.
I like to be lifelong learners. Yes. Thank you. I love, I think it's, I don't know if it's Farrell's book or Scrivener's book, but I love this. The best teacher is the teacher that is that becomes a student of teaching for the rest of their lives once they graduate. We're students of teaching. First, we are students of how to teach and become students of teaching, and that makes us lifelong learners.
All right, so I know it's almost coffee time, Costa Rica time, but I know some of y'all have questions or comments. Go ahead. Yes.
Wait, okay, just a simple question. Hi, I like your presentation. Congrats.
Thank you.
Just something to ponder on. What about if a person doesn't like cooking? It doesn't mean he or she's going to be a bad teacher. I love cooking, by the way, so it's not my case.
Okay, well, then maybe the person should be making drinks at the bar, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's always something. I think even when we think about cooks, I'm going to a family event tomorrow, and I read the menu. It's all this very traditional Czech dish, okay? And it's going to be very traditional in Czech. And that's because that's what my aunt always does. Okay, when people come to my house, it's different. So we all have our preferences for what we cook. And maybe some people don't like to cook. Then I don't think they should be cooking for other people.
True.
In other words, they should be making things for learners, number one. And they should be getting, anyway. But there's nothing wrong about getting, if you have the money, you can go to a great restaurant and get something and bring it to the students, right? No, I think if you don't like to cook, don't cook, don't teach, right? And maybe scrambled eggs 4 times a day. I don't know. I mean, you know, toast and butter only? No, I don't know. But what I think, but everybody can learn to cook if you want to learn how to cook, right? Go ahead. You have
but my question goes hand in hand with somebody in my group mentioned that as teachers, we need to be aware of our students' learning styles. So that has to do with the person's learning styles. Is this person visual? Is this person auditory, or is this person kinesthetic? So I think maybe not. If a person doesn't like cooking, maybe this person can learn a different way. You know, maybe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have. It's all about the learners, and I can see there are some questions about if somebody doesn't like us teaching. If somebody doesn't like what we make. Well, that happens, and that's okay. We don't like everything we eat, right? I mean, as long as we are not like getting sick on what we eat. I mean, and it has to be like not every meal that you have is a great meal, right? But you have to like, you're gonna be eating only things that you hate. And so you can ask that learner, what is it that you like to eat in a lesson? And we talked to Catherine when you were in your groups. I asked Catherine, what is it that matters to her as a student? Right. So we reach out to the students. Somebody said a top advice here ingredients is learn about your students. What is it that you like? And if the student says, I don't know, then you say, okay, five things here. Which one is the one that you hate the most? So what I like to do with teenagers, I don't ask them what they like, because they'll never tell you what they like, because they can't say it. They can't say that they like something, right? Being a teenager is about dislikes. So in the public, they like things with their friends, but not publicly. So what I tell them is, out of these 5 things, which one do you hate the most? And then you get a response. Okay, so learning about what the students don't want in the class, what are their least favorite things? And you say, oh, John, or I don't know, Maria, this is the thing you don't really like. We're gonna do it today, but tomorrow we're gonna do something else. I mean, humor is another thing. Nobody put in humor, but I believe humor is another little great ingredients. Lourdes? Lourdes has a question, right?
Yeah, I do. I was a little bit amazed when you said that it's not our job to motivate our students. And well, I don't totally agree with what you're saying, because I believe that we can, if we say like the benefits of cooking, what the benefits of cooking are, and how they will grow as cooks, and how better learners they will become if they are motivated by telling them like the benefits of learning a foreign language, no, as English teachers, for example, in this case, I believe that we could do a little bit to demotivate them, to motivate them to make their demotivation less. Sorry for the confusion, but I think you're getting my point, right?
I do agree, Lourdes, that it is our hidden responsibility to motivate them. Okay, but at the same time, we cannot really motivate them. We cannot make somebody eat the food that we make. Okay, we can say, okay, I put these things in it, and this is good for you, and I really cooked this well, and I did really thought this through, and I think this is really good for you as a learner. But we cannot really make a person eat something. And that's why I think we cannot make students motivated. It is not what I believe. It's like its motivation is integral part of creating conditions in the classroom. And I think our responsibility is to engage learners. Okay, but there's lots of research and things, and Dorney talks about motivational strategies. And I think we do. Don't get me wrong. I think it is our responsibility to create conditions that will be motivating for learners. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's more precise putting it this way than not to motivate, but conditions that will be motivating, that will be engaging for our learners, if that makes sense. Yeah. Is that okay for you? I see you're nodding. That makes sense. Okay, I'm sorry about not being accurate there, but sometimes my students think I have to do something so they like it. And I say, no, you don't have to do something that they like it. You have to think about the lesson well and think about your learners. Okay, they're trying to make somebody happy. It doesn't get as far. If that's like a in real life, right, situation. I see Anna and then Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to keep on going with this analogy with cooking, I feel that we sometimes are better at cooking some things than others, and we are better at teaching some groups than others, some ages or some, whatever. And I think that happens to be very, very relevant. When we know ourselves as teachers, we know I'm really good at teaching this particular group or this particular aspect of the language, I will do a better job. And then, by default, if I'm doing a better job, my students will be more engaged, and, the whole thing will kind of click and become a great dinner party. Do you agree?
You grow, I mean, yeah. Okay.
Hi, first, thank you for your wonderful TikTok. And I'm thinking in the same line that we as a chef, as a cooker, we prepare the most delicious meal, but the customer says, I don't like it. What should I do? If I'm very aware that we cook the right recipe, you know? How can we change that?
I think sometimes, and this doesn't apply to all the time, but sometimes I think that it is us who think that we make the best meal, but we didn't involve the learner in the process. Okay, if I in the Czech Republic, in school cafeterias, the kids pick up the food and the meals or whatever and then they take it back, and when they put the tray back with the plates, sometimes there's all this food. And if I were in the kitchen and I saw that the kids are not eating what we make in the kitchen, I would think about this, because very often the people think I'm making the best for my students, but what is it really that they want it or that they like it? I understand that the generation now, and especially with the COVID, everybody has slowed down. It's very difficult to engage the learners. It's very complicated. But if the students don't like what I cook, it's my responsibility to talk to them and find out what is it that is they don't like. I think it's the dialogue. And going back to, somebody said it in the ingredients, is getting to know the learners. I had a class about 3 years ago, and it was, whatever I did, it was just hard. At one point I was like, I opened it up. I said, guys, I'm doing my best. This is really difficult for me. And I see what you're doing in the class, and I see your responses, and it worries me, and I don't understand it. Can you help me to understand what's going on? And by opening up the conversation, I learned about how they felt. And I realized that they felt maybe insecure, although I thought I created a safe environment, but it had to do with their other experiences. So understanding their needs and how I can address their needs, because sometimes we think we know what they need, but we don't ask them what they need. Okay, I think, oh, it would be great if I make this for my friend. And who knows that my friend had a big meal at lunch, and when I create a big meal for dinner and have that friend over, they will not eat it because I didn't ask, what would you like to eat tonight? Okay, what is it like for you? And sometimes we think it's personal, and very often it's about the students. There is a reason for their behavior, and understanding their needs and their thinking behind their behavior is important in us adjusting it. Sometimes I want to make pasta. I like pasta, Italian, but it's very possible that my students just like Asian, okay? Because that's what they experience, and they don't like my pasta. They don't want any Italian. So I like cooking Italian. They want Asian. I think Italian is better, okay? So I'll continue making it, or we'll go like, oh, you like Asian. So, okay, let me think about it. I have to start with what they know, where they are, and slowly take them to my Italian. Okay, if they had 5 years of teacher-centered lessons and we come in and we do pair work, they will not interact, right? So what we have to do is we have to start where they are and go from there. So Katya, I would encourage you to, if you are learning that the students don't like what you're doing and they're giving you the plates back full of food, ask them what they would like to see on the plate. What is it that they don't like, if that makes sense? If I don't know anything, even if I know, I go to students for advice. They're the best ingredients, okay, in our teaching. They have the answers that we don't have for us. Okay, thank you. That was a good question. There's a conversation going on in the chat. What they like the best and what they like the least. And I would say maybe sometimes it's good. What was the one thing that helped you to learn today? And what is the one thing that didn't help you to learn today? So modification of that question that Lynn suggested. So I was thinking when Lily reached out to me, I was thinking, what is it I want to talk about? And I feel like all the answers, you have all the answers. You studied, you're educated, but sometimes in our minds, we think that we should be doing something more, and that's why we attend these webinars. But maybe my goal, which I didn't state explicitly out there, was just to think about what your resources are, what is your good cooking, and just build on it. And maybe here and there, add something new to the dish, to your repertoire or to your cookbook, and see how your students will respond. But it starts with the students, and they're at the center of our instruction. So before we close up, I would like to share another link to the Slido. If you can share your takeaway in there. Here's the link. No, I need to probably open it, right? Hold on. Let me open it. I didn't activate it. Here we go. Carla, you have a question. I know I didn't see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
At the last moment, I just came up with an idea in my, because I was like, okay, definitely the fact that we are teaching online, because I love the classroom, I love the classroom, the interaction. I miss, because everything that we say about context and empathy and all that, when we actually know the person and we are there, definitely that brings, an environment that sometimes it's easy to connect with the students, But when I have students, for example, in Costa Rica from all over the country and sometimes international, because I teach students in Spain and also in Italy and, in Colombia. What would be the ingredient for us, those who were used to be in the classroom and now we're teaching online? Because it has been difficult for me. I have to agree that, and I have to say that sometimes I say, oh my goodness, I'm better doing this activity or this type of, even following a textbook, even if, if I have a brilliant activity and then I know it's better in the classroom, but I have to do it online. So what would be the best ingredient based on your experience now that we are teaching online? And as I see it, I think I'm going to continue doing it like that.
I don't think teaching online is any different from teaching in the classroom. It's just that we have other tools that we need to implement. So when I went from the classroom to online, I just needed to figure out tools that will help me to engage the learners in a way that I would do in the classrooms when they're on their devices. So that's the only challenge. So for the talk today, I thought how I want people to brainstorm and share. I want them to rank, and I, want to do this kind of a poll. What is the best tool? And I called a friend of mine who is good with technology, and I said, hey, what do you think? I'm thinking about this. She said, why don't you think about this? So I went ahead and I implemented Slido for the first time. Okay, but I would have done the same thing in the class. I would maybe also use Slido or these cards in the class. So to me, teaching online is only different in that I have to replace certain strategies with other strategies, or certain tools with other tools. And I have to think through and integrate the technology. But otherwise, so learners, sorry, Carla, go ahead.
So maybe our challenge is actually to learn those tech ingredients and add it to the lesson, right? Which is, me, for example, I'm joining all this because I would like to see, what tech ingredients that maybe we were not using before I can learn, now.
I didn't think of like, oh, I need to learn these 5 apps. No, it was more about, okay, in the class, I need to do this. How can I do this efficiently and fast and well? And at the end, I ended up with 3 tools. And my tech colleague who is big in tech, she says, you only have 5 tools that you like. And if you find a new one, you take one down and you always have 5. Because what we know also from learning is that the more tools we integrate, the more confusing it is for the students. So it's good to have like, Slido for something. There's this another one. I've used a lot of Google things, Jamboard and Google Docs and all Google Forms, and I didn't go beyond that. So just what do I need? What tools do I need? And then integrated those and look for tools for those things. So I myself was learning on the go, but I didn't overwhelm myself. How can I do this effectively? So, but it's the same in the classroom. How can I do this effectively? So when the student is always at the center of my attention and I want the students to be engaged. So what do I need to do now to keep the student engaged, right? Having polls and having these online things for this engages people. It's different. And at the end, it's their responsibility to be active as much as it is my responsibility to create the conditions. So I think teaching online is it's still learning, and certain principles have to be followed the same way they're in the classroom. Second language acquisition research. There's only certain, we have to do certain things. There has to be input and there has to be output. There has to be focus on form, there has to be focus on meaning. There has to be a certain pace, enough opportunities for practice, feedback, feeling success. And that doesn't matter which platform it is on. So there's a lot of research, a lot of books now, how to teach online. Just the good cooking is good cooking. Salt, pepper, butter. Get you far, I think. Thank you. So thank you. I mean, I apologize to all of those who've written recently books on online teaching language classes. Simple. Thank you for sharing. I can see that the cooking metaphor has stuck with somebody. So I'm sure one day when you're cooking, it's like, so what ingredients do I have here? Okay. And I heard somewhere that in Italy, they use 5, like, you don't go beyond 5. If you start, things get too complicated if you start implementing more. So, you know, just use your 5. I don't know, use your 6 or something. As new tips and tricks. Oh, I like that. I learned that motivation comes from the way we prepare the lessons. Oh, this is great. Thank you. To give my eaters of language. I like eaters of language. That's an interesting expression. You know, those hungry. I mean, sometimes they're not hungry for the language, though. We have to make them feel hungry. Okay, we have to make it look so that they. Sometimes when you see a good picture of food, you get like, I want this, right? So we need to make them want our food. This session was focused on foundations of teachers. Yes. Happy student seasoning new learnings. Try other seasonings. That's good. Experiment. If your students can take it. Okay. Sense of humor. Every teacher has their own ingredients. Take care of what I do and taking the students more. Teaching involves a lot of reflection. Yes. I can be a better teacher by finding out what my students like as learners. Yes. It is about the learners and understanding the learners. And I think very often we ask lots of questions in our language classes, but we don't ask a lot of personal questions. We don't ask the learners. We ask them questions, but we don't ask the learners. Anyway, I think we're running past our time. As somebody said earlier, it's coffee time in Costa Rica. I understand that in Spain it is a big thing, coffee time in the afternoon. And Costa Rica is probably not that different. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being willing to think about your work and your cooking as teachers and your ingredients. I'll be happy to share the top ingredients with Lily, what was brainstormed in the groups for you, but hopefully maybe you have an additional one, or you remember that you had something in your ingredients that maybe you haven't used for some time. So it was a pleasure to be virtually in Costa Rica, and thank you for your time with me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. So, you know, since I'm not sharing my screen yet, so you can see all the cameras, anyone with the cameras on, if you can give Gabriela a wave or a big thumbs up in appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And we know it's probably now past 11 o'clock your time, so we want to let you go and let you enjoy the rest of your evening. What time is it there?
I got all excited about this, you know, so.
No. So thank you very much. Again, this is our 44th PD Talk of the series. This is the 5th one of the year. So really happy that you joined us, and happy that everyone else connected as well, even though we changed our time slightly. So just a reminder, we do have another PD Talk coming up in about a month, as always, and we'll be sharing the info about that very soon. But before that, we have the National Conference, and you know that the National Conference sessions have a similar flow to the ones that we have in the PD Talks, right? And so if you look in the links that are shared in the chat, the very last link is a link to our conference website where you can check out the program, and you can also register. It's free. We are doing a hybrid event this year, so we're going to have some sessions actually in person in our theater in San Jose, but we're going to be live streaming those sessions as well through Zoom. And you're going to be able to participate in the chat if you connect to those virtually. And there's going to be some other sessions that are 100% webinars like the one that you just had today. So please check that out. Definitely want to see you there. Again, a reminder that we have our community of practice site where we're going to be uploading the materials and recording for this session, as well as the different talks that we're going to have during the NCTE. So one of the links as well that you see in the chat is how to register or how to join. And finally, the first link in that group of links that's shared is a link to a feedback survey about today's session. We would like your input about what you thought about it. And we always share the results with our speakers. We think it's nice for them to get input anytime that they do a talk with us as well. So please take a few minutes to answer that feedback survey. We would really appreciate it. So that's it for us today. We'll leave the room open for another couple of minutes just in case you need to click on any links or anything like that. And well, enjoy your Friday and hope to see you at the NCTE next week.